Oh, how was your Christmas?
Christmas was good. Little
Good.
girl, 5.5 years old.
Yeah.
And she was worried that she might not be on the good list. So she has a little Christmas tree in her bedroom, and we put a present under it, and it was lit up. And then when she woke up in the morning, she just started yelling that she was, in fact, on the good list.
Well, that's exciting for her.
Yeah. It was a window into my childhood watching her do that.
It's a nervous time, I'm sure, for kids.
Yeah, she wasn't quite sure.
Really
But she realized. How about you?
Not bad.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We have the twin 5-year-olds and almost 3-year-old now, and they were all very energetic.
Were you on the good list?
I was on the
Kinda?
okay list. Yeah, all the kids were on the good list.
Yeah.
Our family had the joy of a couple trips to the emergency room on Christmas Day. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good old-fashioned Christmas.
Hey, yeah, you can't ask for anything better.
Yeah.
On those type of days. But
how about the state politicians? Do you think they've been on the good list? I had to bring it up because the last show I was saying that I thought, I don't know, if you want to go back to the recording, I said something was going to happen. It happened.
No, I think you said that we would have a budget
we
passed
would have
by the next
is
time
that
we
it?
had a show. Yeah.
I don't know.
Can we have the recording? I think we should play it.
I think I said something. I didn't know if the budget was going to be
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Either way. Yeah, there's something now, I guess. So that's
something
worth talking about. We've started every
funding.
show with the state budget discussion since the state budget not happening has really become a big story.
I was hoping Chris Rossetti would be in the studio today so I could get on his back about it.
Yeah.
If you're listening, Chris, I'm looking for you today. I was really hoping you'd be here. We could talk about it. But I actually think what happened is going to create more confusion and more division is the impression that I got.
Yeah.
And then on the school side of things and I haven't seen anything, maybe you have, the actual definition of emergency funding.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
No.
I guess that's where some of the confusion is going to come in.
Yeah.
And then to go back to the show that we talked about, it still seems to be at the forefront of defined contribution versus defined benefit. That seems to be at the heart of what this battle is going to come down to.
Yeah. Doesn't it seem like we're using a Band-Aid when you need stitches? Isn't that what it almost feels like that? That's what they've done. They've thrown a Band-Aid over something that needs much more care than that.
I think it's going to go on indefinitely now.
Yeah. Now that they've taken care of the things that were going to pressure them, yeah, I agree.
And I didn't want to see the funding go through, but now it's almost at a point where what we've been talking about, when you borrow money, the school district's borrowing money, just to make payroll and pay all of those bills, but then to pay the finance charges on that. Mm-hmm. It was just, they were up against the wall, but now, they put a Band-Aid on it, really where it needed some stitches, but I still haven't heard really any ideas for how that's going to be resolved. And I've gone over my idea that I didn't get any calls about. I don't know why it can't be a combination of both defined benefit and defined contribution.
Right.
And I come up with that, and then I'll get off of it. The term retirement, and when you talk about retirement, but there are people in that system that just quit working that don't necessarily retire. So I compare it to Social Security. If people start to collect Social Security early at age 62, but they don't technically retire, then part of their Social Security is taxed once they start to make a certain amount. I feel like there could be some formula for that as well.
Yeah.
So if you were in the state system and you quit working, not retire, but quit working and start to collect on a pension, if you make over a certain amount, then part of that is delayed or part of that is paid back in that pension system to help the people that will retire down the road. That's my solution. We'll see if if anyone's listening. We'll try to get Governor Wolf on here.
There you
Maybe
go.
I can throw that at him. And hopefully he won't tell me it's a bad idea and tell me to get back to work.
Speaking again, we're almost a year into this show now, Michael. It was January 8th of 2015 that we started this, and I got to say, you've had, last spring, you can recall, Dr. Stallman. You had Mr. Funk from the Clarion School Board and Clarion Superintendent. We've had Representative Oberlander on here. Folks talking about the CVS issue. I feel like you've really punted it away on this one. The guests that you've brought in for your final show of 2015.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You look at all the different people you've had and all these just very, very important members of the Clarion and surrounding community. And then
So then you're getting to the guests
what did
today?
you drag in today?
Well, I brought them in to talk about maybe some of the financing that the schools would potentially have to borrow and what kind of lending rate you would give them. And if anyone's listening, and I know they are recording this, today I have Mr. Jim Kifer on. He's the CEO of Clarion County Community Bank. And if you're wondering if there's a coincidence between the last name, there is not. Dustin,
I'm just a jerk.
Yeah.
I'm just rude to our guests.
And Dustin promised that he'd be on his best behavior today, and you are already just right out of the gate off of it. But what are you going to do? But Jim, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate being here, and it's obvious Christmas is over because my little boy is already being bad.
Hey.
He's thinking that
true.
week between Christmas and New Year's, that's where Santa's not actually making the list.
Right.
So then you go in and it resets on January 1st is maybe what it is. I don't know. But I'd carry that over, Jim, and I definitely wouldn't buy him a Christmas gift.
I will try to keep it in mind.
Don't put it into your budget, just save the money.
There you go.
Yes. Speaking of budgets, I'm glad you didn't include me in the conversation about the state budget.
I try to keep, unless Chris Rossetti is involved, I try to keep it, or have a special guest. I don't try to put people on the spot about that. But if you want to throw an opinion out there, I'm not going to prevent you.
I'll stick to the finances.
Okay. But anyway, today, the topic of today's show, a couple of weeks ago, the Fed raised interest rates. And what I wanted to get into today is that's going to have a direct effect on consumer lending. And the show being primarily about personal budgets and how people plan for that. This is something that's involved in someone's personal budget that they really don't have control over. And I thought it would be good for everyone just to get some information from when they walk into a bank. You're who they're talking to. This is maybe not you directly, but you have the information that people can absorb and deal with as far as their personal budget's concerned, and maybe look towards the future and what we can expect with that. And Dustin, did you want to get into it, or do you want to take a quick break? Go right into it. So Jim, I guess what I'm wondering is, near term as well as long term, what do you see coming in the future as far as interest rates are concerned?
Okay.
From a personal lending standpoint.
Right, from the consumer side, it will affect the business borrowers a little bit more because of all the lines of credit that are out there. But from the consumer side, this is the first rate change that we've seen since December of 2008. 7 years we've gone without a rate change, so a number of people are not used to the fact that rates can move up and down and change your payments along the way. With this first 0.25% increase, I don't think that most consumers are going to see much of a change. Really, on the consumer side, the only people that this will affect that already have their loans in place are people that have home equity lines of credit. I'm not talking about some of the loans that some banks term as lines of credit, but they're fixed. These are true home equity lines of credit. Those rates have gone up 0.25% immediately. Why I say not much of an effect on that is that I took a look at some rates, and if you have a $50,000 line of credit through the home equity, that 0.25% increase amounts to about $10 per month. So it's not going to be drastic to people, but they may notice it.
Mm-hmm. And how your bank specifically, it's from bank to bank. You because that's dollar for dollar, that's equal to what the Fed raised rates. Is that up to the individual bank, or is there some outside force that directs that?
Well, if we're talking about variable rate loans, then that's going to be directly related to either the prime rate that the Federal Reserve is involved in raising, or LIBOR, which I don't want to get into that here, but a lot of banks use the LIBOR rate. So variable rates are set directly from those rates. Where banks have their choices on the fixed rate that they offer on products.
So when you're talking home equity lines of credit, is it also going to affect variable rates on variable mortgages?
Yes, it will if there's variable mortgages. What I've found around this area is that we don't see much variable mortgage lending aside from the home equities. The consumers in this area historically through the years just have not accepted that type of borrowing. They want to know what their rate is going to be for long term and know what their payment is going to be. So that hasn't been a big seller in our area.
And I've been hearing lately the mortgage process in general, it's getting more complex. Are interest rates going to have anything to do with that?
No, interest rates won't really affect that at all. That's all regulatory in nature. I can go back as little as 12 to 15 years ago, and if everything fell in line, have a mortgage closed in maybe 2 weeks. With all the regulatory changes that we're looking at now, to get one closed in a month is unbelievable, but you're probably looking more like a month and a half to 2 months. So, but that has nothing to do with the interest rates necessarily.
So what's taking more time?
The appraisal process, just all the paperwork, everything that has to be compiled by the loan officer prior to it even being considered a mortgage application.
Is it taking longer on the approval process at all?
No difference
So on
the
your end,
approval
it's
process.
Okay. Because what I was getting at, all of this, as far as consumer lending is concerned, pretty much goes out the window if you have questionable credit. And ever since 2008, it's becoming more stringent now from a mortgage standpoint, from your side, from the lending, whether you're going to even offer that loan to begin with.
There's no question about that, and we've had some situations in our area that have hurt some of the consumers' credit, and it's a tough thing to dig out of. But we are held by fair lending laws, regulations that we have to set ourselves up at a certain level of what we will accept from credit. And we can't change that decision process between different creditors, or that would be a fair lending violation.
Mm-hmm. So that standard is set from one bank to the next? Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. I mean, each bank can determine for themselves what their what their limits are going to be of what they'll accept. Yeah, and sometimes banks will get to the point that they maybe get desperate for loans and they'll lower their acceptance levels, and we generally don't try to do that. We try to be straight across the table.
And this is kind of where my business side kicks into it. Can I negotiate that? Do you make it publicly available on the credit side?
That's another thing on the consumer side that the regulators have taken away from us. We have to be very careful of giving better rates to some people and charging others more. Now, we can base those rates on your credit. And if you're within our acceptable guidelines, we may make the loan to you, but it might be at a higher interest rate than someone that's taking care of their credit and has perfect credit.
Does your bank or any banks make that public information? And I'll get more specific about it. Let's say my credit score is 649 and the next level to get a better rate is at 650. Would I know that walking in without even applying for a mortgage?
You wouldn't know that, but our loan officers would be very open about where you fall within that range, and
Okay.
they may even have some ideas for you of how you could improve that and bring that score up.
Sure. But then if I'm right there in one point, and again, I'm getting to my business side here, could I negotiate that rate to the 650 mark?
It would be on the edge of being a fair lending issue,
Yeah.
and we'd be looking out for the regulators.
Hey, I got to try. I feel like I'm buying a car here.
Yeah.
Now, it's different. I know we're talking consumer here, but on the business end, we can talk and negotiate with anyone and do just about anything you want to do
Really?
within reason.
So
But
it's
just the regulations on the consumer side are all there to protect the consumer, but in reality, in many ways, it's hurt the consumer because it doesn't give us the options we used to have.
But on the business side, then, for business lending, and just for a minute, I don't want to get into it, but it's open architecture, so to speak. I mean, you could negotiate that from that side?
Yes, you can negotiate.
Oh, interesting.
Anytime these regulations come up, and no connection between us. We just lived in the same house for 20 some years. Not until my late 20s. Let me clarify that first of all. But in knowing that he's been in this business since, for a long time, and not just at Clarion County Community Bank, but before that, the thought that pops into my mind with the regulations is these regulations always seem to me to be, and you can tell me whether I'm right or not,
I would.
they always seem like they're made for people that aren't from this area or from areas like rural Clarion County, because, and like you said about the regulators, you'd be looking out for them. The 649, 650 example that you give there, I mean, you probably know very well and know a lot of the history of and know various members of the family of somebody who comes in, or your loan officers would know those people. Does that seem fair? I mean, a lot of these regulations, they're not made for small town America, are they?
No, you're absolutely right. And a lot of the regulations are to protect the consumer, and they were done for a good reason, because there were maybe mortgage companies out there that, not necessarily banks, whether commercial, regional, super sized banks, whatever, but some lenders on the side that were taking advantage of consumers. So a lot of these rules come from those type of lenders, and but it has to come to the bank level as well.
And what you're getting at, because I obviously being a financial advisor in this area, really going back to the subprime mortgages that were put in place, and what you said earlier in the segment about people in this area, they want fixed mortgages. You don't see a lot of variable rate mortgages, because in this area, and I obviously working with a lot of people at their individual household level, they want to know exactly what the interest rate is over the exact time frame, because they intend to pay off that mortgage. But some of the problems we ran into in other parts of the country is on the subprime side, that people would borrow, and sometimes interest-only borrowing with no intent of ever paying off that mortgage. So now there are regulations put in place to protect people, so to speak, but what you're saying is, in this, because of that traditional type lending, you do a lot more traditional type lending than someone that's looking to flip a house, say, and do
absolutely.
things like that. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the one other thing, because I know some people listening, and this has been going around for quite some time, and I can feel that compliance arm coming down. So without getting into specific rates, do you see savings rates going up, money markets, CDs? Do you see that going up anytime in the near future?
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. Now that they've taken this first move at moving the prime rate, I've actually seen locally CD rates that have started increasing, just with the thought that the rates were going to be heading up. I don't think it'll be long till you'll start seeing some savings rate increases, money market increases. It's been a tough time on the savers over the last 7 or 8 years with interest rates near zero, and so I think they'll be looking forward to the rates. And as far as the experts go, with the air quotes and all,
Mm-hmm.
as far as the experts go, there are plans to see another 0.25% increase each quarter in 2016 at this point. Don't know if that's going to happen. They always tend to see the economy doing better than what I really think it is, but that currently they're looking at that, which could bring mortgage rates from the 3.75 to 4% that they are right now, maybe up as high as 5%. But
Wow.
at the same time, that would increase the savings and money market CD rates.
So when you say that on the mortgage side, how soon do you see that within? Would you think within the next year?
Well, just based on the experts, and what they're saying is if we get 4 more prime rate increases over the next year, then there is no reason that mortgage rates won't be up somewhere around 5%.
Great. Well, Jim, I want to thank you for coming on the show and just giving people some idea. I guess what I'm always dealing with is people want me to have a crystal ball, and not only have a crystal ball, but have one that actually works and try to predict what's going to happen in the future. But right now, I think with the Fed making that initial move, one way or the other, people are going to see higher rates. It's coming. So while it's going to be a small increment, at some point in the future, we are going to see higher rates that, again, to go back to the beginning of the segment when you said you see small increases now, those increases are going to continue to go up. So it was nice to get an inside view on that consumer lending side.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I guess I'll just say that if anybody out there is looking at buying a house, now is the time to do it, and not probably not a year from now.
Great.
It'll be much more expensive a year from now. So.
Great. Well, I think this is a good place to take a break. This is Financial Forum with Michael Patton, and we'll be right back.
Making big differences in little people's lives. That's Next Step Therapy. Next Step Therapy is a provider of early intervention services for children ages birth to 3, as well as outpatient services for kids 3 and older. Based upon the strengths and needs of each individual child, early intervention provides services and support to enhance daily opportunities for learning while supporting parents and caregivers. Next Step Therapy's licensed and certified staff offers a variety of high-quality professional services for children with developmental delays or disabilities. Therapy can occur in the child's home, the community, or child care center. Physical, occupational, and speech therapy, special instruction, nutritional guidance. The place for all your therapy is Next Step Therapy. Log on to nextsteptherapy.net to find out more. Making big differences in little people's lives. That's Next Step Therapy, 145 Steffi Boulevard in Seneca, and at 42490 State Highway 27 in Titusville.
Independent operators and business owners, if you use trucks to get the job done, get to know.
BauerTruckRepair.com.
From an oil change to a complete engine rebuild, who has the tools and staff to do it right?
BauerTruckRepair.com.
Who has a full line of small to medium trailer parts in stock and the expertise to find exactly what you need?
BauerTruckRepair.com.
Log on to
BauerTruckRepair.com or see them on Facebook.
Hi, folks. This is Dustin Kifer from D9Sports.com. Your business needs a website, and you know that. Last time you tried to build it yourself, maybe had a neighbor help you with it. Didn't work out so well, did it? That's where the folks at Dagny Design Group can help. They understand that every business is unique. Using their strategic website design and marketing plan, your site will be built specifically to meet your business's needs. Trust the experts at Dagny Design Group. Online, DagnyDesignGroup.com. Call 814-297-8333, mention this ad, and get $100 off your website design.
Financial Forum with Michael Patton is a...
If you have any questions about today's show, feel free to reach out to me on the web, www.pattonadvising.com. We had Mr. Jim Kifer on the show today, CEO of Clarion County Community Bank, talking about lending, interest rates going up, what that's going to do to consumer lending, really what it's going to do to your household budget. And like I said before the break there, everybody with what I do, my profession in general, people want me to predict the future and have a crystal ball that actually works. And it's always... Mike, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
I can tell you what I think is going to happen, but I can't tell you what's going to happen for sure.
I commented off air during that commercial break to you and Jim, Dad, I guess. I'll call him Dad. I think that's okay. But commented to you guys that's read any article, read any business-related article, or most of them, or turn on one of the business-related channels, your CNBCs and your Fox Business and those types of places. And that's all you get is a bunch of people predicting what's going on. I mean, I'm not in a position that you are. I'm not in a position like my father is as the CEO of a bank. So this information is just because of my upbringing, I know and follow this stuff, but it doesn't affect my day-to-day operations. It will affect me if we decide to purchase a different home and we need a new mortgage, then that would affect me. But it doesn't affect my day-to-day workings with various people and giving advice and things of that nature, like, say, you and my dad would be. But when you watch those, I mean, you've been hearing for a year and a half that there's no doubt when the Federal Reserve meets here, they're going to raise interest rates. There's no doubt this is going, and it hasn't happened. It really and truly is there are some things that you can predict. I mean, there are certain times where they will do certain things, certain times where they'll do other things just based on previous experience. But there are a lot of people, the part that gets me all the time is there are a lot of people who are making a decent amount of money for just pretty much guessing all the time.
Sure.
At things.
And I guess in this instance, it is now a sure thing. And from an individual household perspective, rates are going to go up. And all that speculation that you're talking about on television, Dustin, part of the nervous reaction to all of this is that people will not have as much discretionary income in their month-to-month budgets. And once that happens, really nobody knows what that's going to do to the overall economy.
Right.
Right now, and we talk about it quite often, oil is down. And I think that and you turn on the different shows and the different things that are going on, and they say that people really haven't been spending that money. I would argue somewhat against that. It's been a pretty long time, but then recently gas prices have gone down again. But if you're trying to predict the future from your individual household perspective, this is it. Like, even though Jim said that it's a small increment, at some point in the future, and the Federal Reserve now is saying potentially it's going to be a quarter basis point, a quarter of a percent, every quarter next year, it raises it by 1% if that actually happens. So what I did was come up with a couple of quick examples here just to give you an idea. If you borrowed $15,000 on a car at 4.5% over 5 years, your monthly payment's going to be $279.65 per month. So you're going to actually pay $16,779 for that car. Mm-hmm. If you raise it by that 1% over that same 5 years, it takes it up to $286.52, $17,191.20. So it's a $412 difference and 20 cents over that 5-year time frame. Not a whole lot, a little bit, but nothing to really get too worked up about. If you do that on the mortgage and you look at $130,000 mortgage, 3.5% over 30 years, it's going to be a little over $583 per month. So what you'd pay over that 30 years on a $130,000 mortgage, you're actually going to pay $210,153.60 on that mortgage. Mm-hmm. You raise it by that same 1% and move it up to 4.5% over the same time frame, 30 years. It takes your payment to $658.59 per month. You'd actually pay $237,092.40. That's almost a $27,000 difference over that 30-year time frame, and that's what's going to happen to interest rates. They're going up. So if you're looking for someone that knows what they're talking about, just listen to yourself. Pull up a mortgage calculator, an auto compounding interest calculators, any type of calculator. You can do it on your own and figure it out yourself. You don't need an expert to tell you that interest rates are going to rise.
Right.
They're going to. From my perspective, as a financial advisor, I'm not only looking at that, but I'm looking at it on a monthly basis because it's the little things. And I'm leading into what we're going to come into on the 1-year anniversary of the show, household budgeting, and get back to those small and little things in the budget. Your car payment, your mortgage payment, those are the bigger things in your budget. And if you're going to pay more money for them, you need to account for that. So what you're looking at is, and what we were talking about on the car, if you combine the differences between those, the monthly payments, it's $81.70 per month more than you're going to pay. Likely a year or two from now, if you decide to purchase those things.
Right.
That's $980 per year more in your budget that you're going to pay because of rising interest rates. You have to account for that. You have to plan for that. And if you do it properly and you plan for it and you keep everything in check, you can make it work to your advantage. And that's what we're going to get into early next year. And just one more reminder, and then we'll wrap up the show here. When you're looking at it from a household basis and the lending rates, all those rates that we're talking about and everything, that interest rate that you're going to get from a bank, if you have credit that isn't up to par, you're going to end up paying more, period. That's it. You're just going to end up paying more. So if you're not responsible about it now, you're likely not going to be responsible about it in the future. It's just time to start thinking about that. So if anyone has any questions on it, feel free to give me a call, 226-9400. And again, we're going to get back into budgeting first of the year. I want to let everybody know, have a safe, happy, great new year, and I'll talk to you in the new year. This has been Financial Forum with Michael Patton. Thanks for listening.